And welcome to episode 426 of Geektown Radio. I'm your host, Dave, and we have another guest host this week, and it is Rik Carranza. Rik, do you want to just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Hi, my name's Rik. I'm a stand-up comedian, first and foremost, but I also do a hell of a lot of other stuff as well, such as convention hosting, streaming, YouTube videos, and general all-round geekery as well. So yeah, quite a bit there.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. So Rik, what have you been watching and playing over the last few weeks?
Funnily enough, I've actually found some time to do stuff. I'm a dad now, so like as you can probably appreciate, time is like it's lots of midnight watchings of things that I really want to catch up on.
Yes.
And gaming is like I'll do half an hour and as quickly as I can before the child rises. I've been doing a lot of like retro stuff gaming wise. So I've obviously on the back of the amazing Fallout TV show, I loved it so much. Mm-hmm. I sort of revisited. I went into Fallout New Vegas, which was one of the Fallouts I haven't actually played.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was one that I hadn't touched. My intro into Fallout was Fallout 3, which I think a lot of people's intro was Fallout 3. Mm-hmm. And I touched into Fallout 4 as well, but I skipped New Vegas because the reviews on it were very mixed. I remember when it came out, it was like, is it good? Is it not good? I don't know. So I jumped in and I love it. It's got all the usual flaws of a Bethesda game, which obviously it's Obsidian, but like it crashes every so often. Things go a bit janky, but the story is great, and I've absolutely loved. Like it is Fallout, so it just feels really good. It feels like a blanket.
Yeah, it's an interesting one for New Vegas because I don't remember the reviews when it came out, but I mean that may be the case that was reviews, but it's got that sort of Shawshank Redemption feel of like tanked at the box office, but is now one of the most highly acclaimed movies, and I think Fallout New Vegas is sort of in that area as well of like the initial reviews maybe weren't particularly good, but as it's been around for so long, it's hailed by a lot of Fallout players as being one of the best versions of Fallout, which is really quite interesting. And it's something that they've obviously lent quite heavily into, or seem to be certainly for the next part of the Fallout TV series as well, because of where they end up. So
that's the thing. I started playing it during the show as the show was running, and I was streaming it, and a bunch of my viewers were like, "You're in for a big surprise," and all these things. And when the finale of the show came up, and I had been playing the game, I was just like, oh my god, it all links together. When I saw New Vegas, and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe, like it felt very rewarding to be playing the game alongside the show. And then it was just like, okay, and now I'm still playing it, which is great. I'm in some of the DLC right now, and yeah, it's just one of these things. As you said, I think like it has become this like cult game in the Fallout universe where everybody who does play it seems to love it, and I can totally see why. Like the story is probably one of the strongest in the whole franchise. The voice acting is brilliant. I mean, Matthew Perry as Benny is absolutely brilliant. And yeah, it's such and I say like with like Fallout, I just sort of said it there very briefly, but like Fallout for me is like a comfort blanket game. Like if I ever just want to sort of relax and have a nice time and just feel good, I'll just play some Fallout, and it is. I didn't fight some death claws and die multiple times.
Yes,
but it's such total comfort. So no, it's a great game. So really, really enjoyed that one.
It is a really, really good game. It's been a while since I picked it up, but I may have to go back and have another look at that. I've played all of them. I, like you, jumped in at 3, and I played 3, and I played 4 multiple times. I played a bit of 76 as well. Which
not going to get into 76.
Yeah, 76 is a lot better than it was when it was launched. I mean, it had a horrific launch, but they have made a lot of improvements to it. So I'm told. I haven't really managed to get sort of myself completely back into it and stuff. But a multiplayer Fallout is just not something that I particularly wanted. You know, I want another single player version. That's with a story, and that's because that's what Fallout is to me. And the idea of a multiplayer one is like, why? So
I did try it, but the weirdest thing is, obviously with the Fallout games, 3, New Vegas, or you're wandering the wastelands and you're by yourself. But for some reason, 76 feels so like initially when it first launched and I started playing it, it felt so much more lonelier than the other games. Like it felt empty. Like it felt like there was nothing in the world. Mm-hmm. Whereas obviously with those worlds, there's so much to explore. And even though you're on your own for hours in the game, you felt like there was something that you were going towards, or you felt like you could stumble across something. And with 76, I was just like, okay, is this it? Like there's nothing happening. It just felt very empty. But again, it feels like it's like a No Man's Sky situation again, where really bad launch, but as you say, it does sound like it's getting better. So we'll see.
Yes, could be worth going to check back in on that again.
It'll probably happen. It will probably happen for me.
Yes. So what else have you got?
First of all, I know you guys have spoken about this previously, but I just wanted to say I saw Fury. I have not been to the cinema in such a long time. I don't get to go to the cinema these days a lot because obviously got a wee one. It's quite hard. You have to arrange babysitting and everything like that.
Yeah.
Me and my wife actually managed to make it to the cinema last bank holiday Monday. It was beautiful weather outside and we went, let's go to the cinema. We're child free. It's beautiful weather. We're going to the cinema. And we went to go see Furiosa. So just very want to say, because I am huge, we were both huge fans of Fury Road. Absolutely brilliant movie. And Furiosa is just, we walked out that cinema going, this is brilliant. Like everything was just perfect about it for me. It hit all the right chords in terms of like developing that character and giving him a bit more backstory and leading into the Fury Road movie. It just worked out perfectly. So I just very much want to say a movie that I very, very much enjoyed. And I'm gutted that it's had such a poor first weekend at the box office because I think it deserves more. I think it deserves a lot more.
It is difficult with films these days because I mean, I like you. I mean, I've got no real excuse. I just don't go to the cinema because I don't like people and prefer watching at home.
I know that feeling.
Yes. So that tends to be more my sort of, I will wait for things to come through because that's the problem is things come through so fast these days that I'm like, do I want to spend a fortune going to the cinema? And where I am, there's no cinema like that close by. It's sort of at least a half an hour, 40-minute, 50-minute drive. So I'm like, well, it's just a lot of effort to go and do it. Whereas I can wait a couple of weeks and it'll end up on home release. So
that's the other thing now as well, isn't it? Because it's the streaming services are like, it's going to be streaming. Like a lot of Marvel movies recently that I've not gone to see in the cinema, I've just waited for them to come onto Disney Plus because it's easier. And I've got everything. I'm in the comfort of my own home and I don't have to sit in it. Like, as you said, I don't really like other people. it's like I've been to cinemas where it's like, your arm is on my arm and I don't like this. And, then she turns around and says, I'm your wife. You're supposed to like it. No. But no, it was a movie. It was nice to go to the cinema. I do recommend if you're not a fan of people, go to the cinema during the day. It's the best time. There's hardly anyone there. But it was lovely to go. And no, but as I say, it's a movie that I very, very much enjoyed because it was everything that I wanted from a Mad Max film without Mad Max, which is the insane thing. Like there was no Mad Max except for one very solitary lone shot of him standing over the hill. And you go, okay, cool. And then the rest of the movie is all about Furiosa. And that was really, really cool. So yeah.
Excellent.
I really, really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it is interesting because the reviews of it seem to have been very, very, very good across the board. It's just taking massive amounts of effort to get people to actually go into the cinema and spend their money there at the moment, which is, it's a problem for the cinema, unfortunately. But speaking of home releases, what TV have you been watching?
So there's a couple of things that I've been watching recently. One of them is something that I had been sort of waiting for a while, and I've sort of almost binged it, and I've really, really enjoyed it. So I'm a big fan of the original comics. I read them when they came out, and of course I'm a millennial, so the movie I just totally identified with. It's Scott Pilgrim. So I watched Scott Pilgrim Takes Off on Netflix. I didn't know what to expect. I knew it wasn't going to be just a straight remake of the source material of the books. I knew it was sort of like influence and it was going to do its own thing. I knew that the original movie cast were doing the voices again of the characters. So like I was like, okay, this is really cool. And the styling is of like the original comic style, which is great. And yeah, it tells a story that is Scott Pilgrim, very much Scott Pilgrim, the storytelling style, but it tells a unique story and a very different perspective. And I love it, especially in a world of movies and TV shows that lean into multiverses and alternate timelines and everything like this, I think Scott Pilgrim does it really well. Like it has a very, I would say unique, obviously, but it has a very in-universe way of doing it, of doing sort of like this alternate timeline, alternate universe type thing. And I really, really enjoyed it. Have you watched this at all? Have you seen any of it?
No, I haven't. I saw the original film back when it came out. It's one of those things that sometimes a bunch of things drops at the same time. And I just don't get around to watching it. And then more things drop and I forget to go back to stuff.
Yes.
I should go back and watch this because it was only, it's only 8 episodes. And I think it was a one-off thing initially. I don't think they've announced they're doing any more. It was a limited series.
Yeah, I mean they've left the end of it very. There's definitely cliffhangers. There's at the end of this season, and it's like if they wanted to do this, they could leave it as is, and it's fine. Like as a one-off limited series. Like, and I genuinely, I'm of the opinion that there should be more one series things. Not everything has to be multi-series. Not everything has to be explained. Like, it's quite cool. Whereas like this one it's enough to finish it off there and go, hey, we don't need to do any more. But there's definitely some threads hanging that could be picked up on and continued in the future seasons if they were to do it. Personally, I would actually like them to see them do more of it because I think the way they've done it is great. And yeah, it definitely takes it new and interesting directions I'd like to see them try. I don't want to give too much away. This is the thing. I don't want to give too much away about it because it's one of these shows where it's one of these, if you're a fan of the film and the comics and you know that story, as I say, this does some unexpected and some very cool things to take the story in a completely different direction. I'm so excited about it. There's like so much of us like, oh, this bit's so good and this bit's so good, but I don't want to give spoilers away.
Yeah. I was very impressed with how they managed to get the original cast back. I like the fact that it's the showrunner of it was, I think, the comic book creator himself as well. Or was co-showrunner on it. So it's great that they've got those people behind it, and it makes it feel like you're going to get something decent and authentic out of it. So it's also a tribute to how much fun I think that cast must have had on that first movie, the fact that they were pretty much all decided that they were going to come back and do the voices. So
exactly, yeah, and that's so heartwarming. So that's that case. And there's some voices in there as well, some people who have come in to do some voices for some of the other characters that they've introduced, or I'll leave it at that. That it's just like they're nice additions to the cast as well. So I really like it. And there's like a little, obviously it's an Edgar Wright, directed the original movie, and there's a nice little nod in one episode and a nice little cameo from a couple of people. Yes. And that is just like, I wonder who they could be. What a mystery. An Edgar Wright cameo. But like having those two in it in the way that they are is like, this is perfect. So yeah, it's like, they do enough to sort of like bring in both the comic and the movie and pay good little nods to both of them, but do its own thing at the same time. So it's really, really cool.
That's awesome.
Highly recommend. Highly recommend if you're a fan of Scott Pilgrim.
Yes.
The only other thing that I've been watching, and I need to talk about this because the main thing that I'm known for is I'm a massive Trekkie. Right? I'm a massive Trekkie.
Yes.
Have been since like I was brought up on The Next Generation, and my Christmas movie when I was growing up was The Voyage Home. That was every Christmas. That movie had to be on. I wrote a whole show about being a Star Trek fan at the Edinburgh Fringe, and I do a comedy debate panel show thing that I created called Star Trek versus Star Wars. Yes. And I've been doing that for so long now that it's like I can't imagine not doing it. Like I get withdrawals if I don't do the show in a year. So I'm doing that. So I'm a massive Trekkie. So obviously I really just want to sort of talk about the end of Star Trek Discovery. Discovery is an interesting one because it polarized the fan base.
Yes.
A lot. It's Star Trek's prequel series. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even going to say sequel because like the Star Wars sequels are like polarizing. And I think that, but I think there's some valid criticisms of the the direction that they went in terms of like the lack of direction, I should say, that they had between the three movies. That's
absolutely fair. Yes.
Yeah. Whereas I think the prequels, there was a direction. There is actually a coherent story all the way through the three movies. They were telling a story and it was all linked together. It all works. But obviously it divided the fan base between sort of loving prequels or hating them. And the interesting thing is like now, 20 odd, 30 odd years, 20, almost, oh my God, 25 years later, I feel like, especially over the last decade, I would say there's been a sort of shift of opinion on the prequels where people have gone like, yeah, they were bad, but actually they added a lot to the Star Wars universe and they were a gateway for a lot of young fans to come in. And I feel like Discovery is the same thing now for Star Trek fans, whereas the older fans are going, this is not my Star Trek. I don't enjoy this. But there's a lot of people between the 2009 Kelvin Universe Star Treks and Discovery have come into the Star Trek universe as fans of these particular franchises. And they are now fans of Star Trek and they've watched Strange New Worlds. They've watched Lower Decks. They go back and they're watching the older shows. And, you know, I'm follow the Reddits and stuff like that. And it's like seeing these new fans come in going, oh my God, I've just started watching Deep Space Nine. This is incredible. Like, and it's like, that's nice. So I feel like I'm a fan of Star Trek Discovery. I enjoyed it. I don't think it's the best Star Trek. No. I don't like, you know, that's clearly the Next Generation. But it's one that I think what happened, like this season, this last season of Star Trek Discovery, I really, really enjoyed. I remember the interviews beforehand were like, this is the Indiana Jones season. And it felt like that. And I was like, that is the perfect description for everything that's going on. And I'm almost gutted that this was the last. I am gutted this was the last season as well, because I actually feel like in this season, I got a better feel of the cast, the crew, who they were. And it felt more like a crew show. It suddenly felt like this is a crew working together. They introduced some really interesting characters. Rayner is one of the best new characters in Star Trek. And I'm gutted that we only got one season of him as a first officer, because I thought he was fantastic, especially at the end. Sort of his relationship with Tilly, I thought was really, really lovely as well. It was just great. And I really, really enjoyed that. And I just think like it's a shame that it's finished. I understand why it's finished. I think it's, as I said, I don't think it's the best Star Trek. I don't think it's the worst Star Trek. I enjoyed it while it was on. And I think as time goes on, I think people will be more generous in their opinion of it as they look back on it. Because you have to think like as well, I think there was some expectations on what it could have been, should have been. And I think like people were expecting Strange New Worlds and they got Star Trek Discovery instead. I also think like people forgot the expectations that were set by the people who created Discovery as well, where they were like, this is not a show about a ship or a crew. This is a show about one person. Yes. The focus was always going to be on Michael Burnham and her journey through Starfleet, essentially. Yeah. And they did do that. That's what happened. And so like when I see people sort of going like, oh, well, it was just the Michael Burnham show. I'm like, yes, it was.
Yes, it was.
And maybe
that's what it was always.
Exactly. That was it was supposed to be. From the very beginning, they said it was going to be the Michael Burnham show. Maybe they should have named it Star Trek Burnham rather than Star Trek Discovery to sort of keep those expectations. I also think as well, like, you know, they at one point they had Nicholas Meyer on board, they had Brandon Braga on board, and then obviously they left. So I think obviously people were expecting Wrath of Khan and Undiscovered Country style stuff. And instead we got this. But I enjoyed it. I thought the last season, it had its flaws. I still think, you know, when they were on the Breen ship and they stopped to talk about their feelings, I'm like,
yes. That was one for me where I looked and went, that's an odd choice. Yeah.
I was like, this is not the time to do that. I understand why you're doing this, but maybe do it in the transporter room before you go onto the ship, you know?
Yes.
Like, it was such a weird, like there was a lot of weird. That was one of my problems with Star Trek Discovery is like they would build up to this brilliant sort of either action sequence or sequence where they're working stuff out. And it's like, this feels like problem solving in Star Trek and what they do. And then they would stop to discuss their feelings. And I'm like, it's not that it's bad that they do that. Like, I get it for storytelling and stuff like that, but it's like they would kill the momentum that they would have throughout an episode sometimes. And it was just, it was kind of a frustration on my part. And it's like, yeah, you can do this bit later on, you know, I'm not against there being feelings in Star Trek. I mean, Next Generation had Deanna Troi, whose entire character was based on sensing people's emotions. Like, I get it. Like, there has always been that discussion of feelings and emotions and sort of this doesn't feel right, or respecting other people and taking these things into consideration in Star Trek. But it felt a bit heavy-handed at times in Discovery. So I don't know. I wish it had kept going on. I wish they maybe had one more season to sort of do more. I think they'd started really understanding what Discovery was in that final season. So I think it's a bit of a shame that it's finished. But at the same time, I'm glad it's over, not because I think it was a bad show, but because now we can stop arguing about it.
Yeah, yes, I get that. I absolutely get that. I mean, I really enjoyed Discovery as well. I mean, my journey with Star Trek started back in the 80s watching reruns of the original show and then, following everything through since pretty much. And I get the people that say this isn't Star Trek because the vibe is so different to it. But equally, I think it was incredibly intelligent of Paramount in the way that they did it, because the amount of people that you hear that, Discovery was their entry into the franchise. And there is so many people you see out there was like, Discovery was my first show, and I've since gone back and watched all the older stuff and all that sort of thing. We talked a little bit about this last week as well, because they've got the Academy series coming up, which, again, people have been like, oh, why are they making YA drama? It's like, well, for exactly that reason, because they're hoping to connect to that teen fan base that they haven't maybe picked up yet, in the same way that they made Prodigy to try and catch the young kids. And Prodigy,
which is excellent, by the way.
Yeah, it is. It's an excellent, excellent show. Very much is their Star Wars Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels series. Little sort of rocky at the start, but once you get into it and the Janeway stuff comes in, and it really, really picks up and gels together and creates a really interesting show. And there is a lot in there for people who are fans of, Next Generation, Voyager, that sort of era stuff. So I think they were quite clever in the way that they set that up of like, okay, here's a show for people that maybe haven't got into Star Trek before, so we're trying Discovery, which is a little different. Then we're going to give you Strange New Worlds, which is basically a continuation of the original series and brilliantly done. And then you've got the Academy series, which is that YA show. You've got Prodigy for the young kids, although why they decided to offload that on Netflix. But anyway, yes, that's a weird decision. And then you also got the Picard stuff, and which I mean was a mixed bag, but they did nail it with that third season. So,
I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to defend the second season of Star Trek Picard. I was one of the people.
I enjoyed the second season.
I'm one of the people who heavily criticized it as well. And I rewatched it recently and I went, this is actually good. This is actually good.
I think it got better over the 3 seasons. Looking back at it, I thought season 2 was definitely better than season 1. And I thought season 3 was better than season 2. Season 2 very much had that vibe of, which one was the one that the movie that they went back in time?
Voyage Home, where they went back to the 80s. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it very much has that vibe to it. And I love that. I really, really enjoyed that. It got better as it went through, and I think they did some really interesting things. And I think the final season was perfect. They brought all the old crew back together, and I think it needed to be that. If that's the final time we're going to see all that people together, I thought that was a lovely ending to it. So, they covered their bases fairly well. I think they seem a bit wary of doing more next-gen stuff at the moment, and I would like to see more of that. But
definitely like to see some sort of post-Voyager, that era. Bring back those beautiful grey First Contact uniforms.
Yes.
I want to see some Sovereign classes. I want to see some Intrepid class ships, some Defiant class ships. I wish they could, but I also understand why they're not, because those series, they have that 90s look to them. And I think we're more accepting of the updates of Strange New Worlds, Enterprise Bridge looking more advanced in the 60s because we understand the difference in technology. Whereas I feel like there might be a bit of a pushback with the way that these 90s ones would look. Saying that, I mean, obviously Picard is sort of does that. You've got the Titan, and and there's that lovely little line from Picard in that last series where he goes, "One thing I missed, carpets." I did. That was a lovely little nod. But I'm the same as you. I would love to see, and I think obviously there's lots of rumblings from fans that we'd love to see Star Trek Legacy with 7 of 9 in charge of the
I would love them
Enterprise.
to do that. Yeah, I think that
especially
because
they've taken the most interesting characters from that final season, put them on that bridge, do it. It'd be great. So
I mean, I think that is the obvious way forward, and there are fans screaming out for that. If you're going to do another show set in Next Generation, the Legacy series is certainly one that I think could work really, really well. I mean, I think there are interesting things they could do. It will very much depend on what money is left at Paramount because they are going through a lot of financial turmoil at the moment. They were having a vote about somebody buying them out.
Skydance, wasn't it?
Yeah,
a merger with Skydance was what I heard.
Yeah, it's a sort of merger with Skydance, which I think, given that the two mergers were either Skydance or Sony, I think the Skydance one is probably the better option out of the two that were floating around, because Sony probably would have pulled the company apart for parts. Whereas,
that would be horrible. I'll throw a left field one out there because just to sort of talk about sort of like that structuring and sort of making sure that IP stays safe. I would have loved to have seen like a lot of quality content on there. But Apple TV Plus, they should have come in. Like, I would have loved to have seen them come in and bring in Star Trek into sort of Apple TV Plus's territory. I think Apple TV Plus have got a good track record right now of good shows, like obviously Ted Lasso, Foundation's fantastic, For All Mankind, which Ronald D. Moore, Star Trek alumni right there. There's a lot of great shows on Apple TV Plus. And I think like if they'd sort of brought in Paramount, the new series of Frasier, I really enjoyed as well. And like continuing that on Apple TV or having Star Trek on there, I think there would have been a lot more attention put to it. But, Skydance, hopefully, yes, the Sony rumors terrified me because Sony, I mean, look what they're not great. They're not great.
It's a mixture of, they have a very dubious track record with their films, and some of their TV stuff has been good, but the film stuff has been very, very mixed, and they're known for just trying to milk things for as much as they can, which they probably would have done with Star Trek. Plus, you've got this additional problem of they're not allowed to own broadcast networks in the US, so you would have ended up having to split the company in some way. There were all sorts of issues with that. So I think the Skydance deal is probably the better option. I don't think they've confirmed one way or another which way that's kind of going, but they were voting on it. So, I mean,
fingers crossed.
we'll see what happens with that. I mean, but they do need a cash injection from somewhere, and hopefully that will all be positive. Skydance are a decent company, so I mean, in terms of the product they've been producing, so that's good.
I agree. Yeah.
Anything else from you that you've been doing?
Oh, I'll tell you one thing. Like I've been getting into massively recently, and I just want to talk about it because it seems to be. I've found myself in a world that seems to be scary and amazing and everything I wanted it to be. All right. So essentially, for the longest time, I've been tempted to buy myself again a PSP. I used to have a PSP back in the day, and I was like, I want a PSP. I want to take games on the go with me. And then I sort of dived into this YouTube rabbit hole of retro gaming handhelds. I eventually bought myself this one called, it's by a company called Anbernic. And it's really funny because they're all by these like companies that have sprung up in China over the last couple of years. Yeah. And you're going like, they look legit on the surface and you're like, I wonder how legit they actually are. And like this company in particular, like seems to be releasing a brand new handheld gaming console every couple of months, which is the other insane thing. But I've got myself this thing. It's the RG556. And honestly, it's like a little handheld retro game. It's got like a really beautiful display on it. And it runs everything from like old Atari games all the way up to like PS2 and Wii. I've just been like spending so much time on I've got a game on every console that I'm playing right now. And anytime I get a chance to sit on the sofa or whatever, I just pull this thing out and I'm like, okay, I'm going to play some Super Mario 3 right now. And that's really cool. I'll play that. Oh, here's Colin McRae Rally that I used to play on PlayStation. This is great. Or I'm currently doing the Lego Star Wars series on PlayStation 2. And it's just like, it's really cool. And I'm like, I'm really enjoying it. But it's this world of retro handheld consoles. And it is so scary, but insane, and I'm kind of loving it right now. So like if you're ever like in like, there's a lot of like TikTok adverts going on right now where like you can buy this, and like I'm not a big fan of TikTok Shop and the way that they're doing it and stuff like that. The way that people are like talk about trying to sell stuff on it is if like TikTok now feels like I'm walking into a Carphone warehouse and they're trying to get me to buy something. Like it's exactly what it feels like. But I will say, on my guilty aside, like if you are looking into retro handheld gaming, go onto YouTube and search for some of this sort of content from there. Like I myself, I've actually posted a review of the handheld that I've got, and it's just been, it's just great. So being able to play these old games and just forgetting how good, like there's games that I had, like I really wanted to play when I was younger and I never got a chance to, that I'm now being able to play because I've got ability to do it. And I've got to talk about Scott Pilgrim earlier on. I'm flying out to Toronto next month, and I have got a filming location tour planned for myself. I've marked them all on the map, and I'm going to go to all of them. But I'm going to take that on the plane with me, and I'm not going to watch anything. I'm going to play games for 8 hours while I fly on this plane.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the other thing that I've been getting into recently, and it's worth it. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's
weird,
awesome.
Crazy world.
There are some great retro handheld things out there. Like you say, I'm not sure how legit some of them are, and you've kind of got to load ROMs onto them and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, there are some great ones out there, and they're relatively decently priced as well. Yeah. Whereas, same as you, I go back and forth to LA a couple of times a year, and I have a Steam Deck that I take with me, which is a great little piece of kit. You can just load it up with like a few whatever games you're playing. Doesn't play everything, obviously. I mean, there are a few things that it could play better, but generally, really, really solid piece of kit. And I've got a little portable monitor I could take with me as well that I can kind of plug it into and all that stuff. So yeah, it's really, really good. The Steam Deck is the one that I wanted because I have a massive Steam library of games. So it's I don't want to have to re-buy everything for another handheld, So
absolutely. I totally understand that.
Yeah. So on to stuff I've been doing. This week, obviously, there was one major TV release, which was Star Wars: The Acolyte, which is the new Star Wars series. If you've not caught this, it's the first one that has been set in the High Republic era. I think it's the first anything on screen outside of the comic books or novels that's been set in High Republic. So 100 years before Phantom Menace, and you're seeing a Jedi Master investigating a series of crimes that brings him into contact with a former Padawan learner, and you sort of go from there, basically, without giving too much of the plot away. It's an interesting one. There are lots of Jedi around, obviously, because the Jedi at their height. Surprisingly little lightsaber stuff going on in that. They draw them every so often.
But they don't do any fights.
There's no real sort of fighting. And I mean, I suppose because you've not got Jedi versus Sith particularly, you're not going to get necessarily lots of lightsaber duels. But even when they pull them out, they're not really using them very much. They're using force powers, but I thought
which is very cool.
Yeah, which is the force power stuff I thought was really interesting. It's so if you're getting to see them manipulate the force in ways that we hadn't seen before, which I think is really quite interesting. There's 2 episodes that have dropped already, and interesting bunch of cast. You've got Oshira, who is one of the main characters, who is this former Padawan, her former master as well. So yeah, I thought this was an interesting sort of setup. Yeah, you've seen this as well. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I watched the first 2 episodes. I think it's good. I think I don't think it's amazing. I still think the best thing that's come out of Star Wars TV recently is Andor.
Yes.
But I do think it's done enough in those first 2 episodes for me to go, oh, I'm intrigued. I do think it was again, I don't want to say too much for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, but I do think it's interesting that they spent a lot of publicity on a certain character and built them up to be like, this person is in here and they're going to be big, and suddenly they're not. So that was like, I remember sort of watching the first episode going, oh, well, that was a shock. But then I kind of go like, that's good. I'm glad that they took that risk and they did that, because I don't feel like we do that in TV anymore. I don't feel like we do that in movies anymore. I feel like people play it too safe. So I think I actually quite enjoyed that. There's very much a orphan black situation, one actress doing a lot of work.
Yes.
And doing it well, I think. Actually, especially towards the end of that second episode, I was like, this is cool. I think it's interesting. I think it's definitely doing enough for me to be like, I'm interested in where this could go. So yeah, no, I am enjoying it. I also think getting Lee Jung-jae, like that guy was made to be a Jedi Master, wasn't he?
Absolutely.
He was like, it's like, oh my God, he's perfect. Like to go from Squid Games to this, and you're just like, yeah, I understand now. So
yeah, he's been really, really good. Charlie Barnett, who plays Yord, who's the sort of Jedi Knight, and he's very straight-laced. I think he's doing a wonderful job as well. I think as a sort of straight man foil for some of the other characters, I think he's been really good. So yeah, it's a really nice group of people that they've set up. Genki as well, who's the sort of young Padawan of Sol, Lee's character as well. She's Great. Apparently, just looking up some of the notes, apparently she was a background character. That person was a background character in Return of the Jedi, which I didn't realize.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so that's
very cool then. Yeah.
Yes, that's a deep cut, but there you go.
I mean, I guess it's a lot of fun with like them being able to go back and do something. And so that's the other thing. It's like 100 years before. So again, going to be very, I don't know how controversial this is, but thankfully we're not going to have any Skywalkers. I think we're done. I think I've had enough of the Skywalker family.
Yes.
So we've told enough stories in there, sort of thing. But we could still have, like, obviously Yoda is, he'll be around 700 at this point. You've got Chewbacca could potentially, he's quite old. He'd be quite young at this point. And then, of course, I mean, and that's the other thing. Oh God, the end of the second episode, I squealed with joy. And then, of course, Plo Koon as well, I believe, is old enough to potentially be in there. So it'd be quite cool to see if any of these characters sort of join in as well. But we'll see. I'll bet you, I'm going to put money on this. I bet you if Yoda appears, it'll be in the final 2 minutes of the last episode. And it'll be like a look. Yeah.
That was my thinking as well. If they bring Yoda in, I mean, because he's around in the comic books as well in that era, and they use him very, very sparingly in that as well. So, I mean, I think if they are going to put him in, you're right, it will be like in the last 2 minutes of the last episode, I suspect, if they use him at all.
Yeah. So. Instead of using Yoda, though, let's have Yaddle instead. I'd love them to use Yaddle.
Yes, yeah, that would be an interesting one. There's so few of that race around. So,
yeah, we've had enough of Grogu. I want Yaddle now.
I mean, regardless of what you think, Disney did reveal that apparently it had 4.8 million views in one day. It's the biggest Disney Plus launch of 2024.
Wow.
So, so whatever you think of Star Wars, it is very much not dead.
No, absolutely. And I think, again, I'm going to jive. I'm going to go on a hill here. I'm going to devise some fans. I don't think you're right. As you said, I don't think Star Wars is dead. I think that it's a certain subsect of fans are feeling left behind. And I understand that. The stuff that they're creating now does not negate the stuff that you have previously enjoyed. That stuff still exists and you can still enjoy that stuff. The stuff that's coming for now just might not be for you. And that's perfectly okay, but it's bringing new fans into Star Wars. And it's the new fans that will keep the franchise going, not us, because one day we're not going to be around. So we need new fans to keep these franchises going. And like my wee boy, he's only turning 3. He loves Star Wars. He loves the Young Jedi series. He absolutely loves that. That's the thing that he wants to watch. That and all the Lego Star Wars stuff he's obsessed with. But then he's coming in with that, and eventually he'll watch the older stuff as well. And actually, he has watched some of the movies, even though he's only like 3 years old. And his favorite of all the movies, and we've watched all of them, we've sat down, the one he requests to watch every single time is Return of the Jedi. I am so ashamed. It's not Empire.
Of course it's Return of the Jedi. It's got Ewoks in it.
Yes, exactly. So,
if you're going to put murder teddy bears
Skywalker.
That is true. But if you're going to put murder teddy bears in something, then, that's the thing the 3-year-old's going to gravitate towards.
Exactly. So I think I'm enjoying it. I'm curious to see where it goes.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in seeing more of it. I think it was a solid enough start. Like you say, not necessarily the best of the Star Wars series. I think I'd agree with you. That's Andor so far. But, and I do love The Mandalorian, but it's a solid, interesting start. It's an area where we've not seen before. I'm happy for them to explore that a bit more. The other thing this week, Doctor Who as well. Where are you on Doctor Who these days? Because I know people dropped in and dropped out, and some people have come back and some people haven't.
God. I'm on a very interesting place with Doctor Who right now. So fan of Doctor Who, obviously. I have eyes. And it's Doctor Who is good. So I remember when I was younger, like Sylvester McCoy was the first Doctor I ever saw.
Right.
And I was aware of. And then it was sort of Eccleston, Tennant, Smith, and I enjoyed all of them. And then I started watching Capaldi and I just went, I'm just not enjoying this quite as much. And then I heard it got better, but I never really dived back into it. And then when they switched over to Jodie Whittaker, I'm a big fan of her work. So I was like, okay, let's watch this again. And I was just like, oh, it's such a shame. I just couldn't get into it. And it was just like, not for the lack of like her, she was great. And she was doing everything she could, but it was just the rest of the stuff around it was just not great. But me and my wife have been revisiting Doctor Who, and we revisited it from the Eccleston era. So So we're walking away. We're currently through Matt Smith right now. We did watch the first episode. So we watched the return of Tennant and watched those episodes and loved them. And we watched the first full episode with Ncuti Gatwa, and we were like, oh, this is going to be fun. But we haven't watched anything since because we're working our way to catch up to it. So I've heard interesting things about it.
Yeah. If you've only seen the first one, you're in for a real treat as you go through. The first 2 episodes are fun, but slightly sillier. And then it just gets better and better and better as you go through from there.
Nice.
This episode, Rogue, is very much a classic Tennant era New Who, like Monster of the Week, Girl in the Fireplace. Just classic episode. It's set in 1813. Doctor and Ruby land at this Duchess's party where some people are being murdered, and the Doctor bumps into this mysterious guy who turns out to be a bounty hunter called Rogue, who, I mean, we only know him as Rogue as a sort of nickname, but very much feels like it's Captain Jack. I mean, I suspect it won't be, because I don't think they would have just recast it, but it's very much in that vein. You could have almost switched the two of them out. Rogue does mention that he had lost somebody in his past, and you do wonder whether he was maybe Jack's partner at some point, because they're so similar. So that I thought was quite interesting.
Nice.
But it's a really, really solid episode without going into sort of any more spoilery details about exactly what the plot is. But yeah, the more we go through it, the more you see how perfectly cast Ncuti and Millie are for this. And Ncuti's emotional range across it has been brilliant. The episode last week, which was Dot and Bubble, it was a kind of gut punchy ending to that one, and it's just astonishing. It's been superb. Really enjoy it, and it's got better and better. It does feel very much like season 1 of the Eccleston era, where it started off a little bit sort of, okay, they're finding their feet, and then sort of hit a stride and just went. And it feels very much like that. And you look at the press and the people talking about it, I've seen very few negative comments. I mean, I know there have been some, but I've seen very little from a lot of the fandom. They're like, I really like this. I like him as a Doctor. I think, yes, some of the episodes haven't quite hit and they feel a bit rushed, but as general trajectory of it has been superb throughout.
I think that's fair criticism that some of the episodes, but I mean, like, even Tennant didn't have every episode was amazing. Loving monsters. It was like there was dodgy episodes all around. But I'm looking forward to sort of actually catching up on this and like watching it back and seeing these. I think like for me, like Ncuti, like the bi regeneration and his introduction, I bought into him straight away. Like I was like, you're the Doctor. Like the way he was straight away. I was like, this is the most Doctor I've met since like the Matt Smith generation. It was brilliant. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you've got some good stuff coming up. There was another wonderful. I love how Russell does this, because he drops these things in which will send the internet insane in the fandom. There is a little point where Doctor's trying to sort of show who he actually is, and he uses the sonic screwdriver to project holograms of his past incarnations. So you get these heads floating past, and it's like William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton and Tennant twice and other things, and then a face goes past and you're like, wait, who's that? And people of course have stopped it, freeze framed it. Richard E. Grant. So the animated 40th anniversary Scream of Shalka apparently is now canon because they've just dropped him in there. We don't know where he would fit, whether it's somewhere between sort of McGann, the War Doctor, Eccleston, because whilst we've seen those regenerations, we didn't see necessarily exactly who they regenerated into. So there's some play maybe there. But I mean,
that's incredible.
I love the fact that Russell just like threw it in there, and like the entire Reddit comment thread afterwards was like, wait, was that? Was that
my numbering is all wrong now?
Yeah. Was that Richard E. Grant? What?
That's amazing. I love it. I love it how Richard E. Grant's been having this sort of like tour of the franchises recently, you know, appearing in like Star Wars, Marvel, now in Doctor Who. We just need him in Star Trek, and I will be very, very happy.
I'm sure that will happen at some point. The other bit of news with Doctor Who that dropped was there's a new Tales of the TARDIS episode coming.
Brilliant.
But what's interesting about this one is the Tales of the TARDIS, for if you haven't caught these, they're on iPlayer, and it brings back old Doctors and Companions into what I think they call it a memory TARDIS. And it brings them back in, and they basically sit down, tell stories to each other, and then it fades into a classic episode. So it's a way of introducing new fans into the classic episodes, which is a really lovely thing that they've done. What's interesting about this is it's coming 20th of June to iPlayer and to BBC4, and it's Shooty and Millie doing it. So it's not an old Doctor and an old companion. It's the current Doctor and current companion. It's billed as being an hour and 16 minutes as well, which is fairly short for a classic episode run. If it is a classic episode, it's probably 3 episodes. And there aren't that many 3-parters in that because they were all sort of 4 or 5-parters, those longer. Yeah, they were slightly longer. So I'm really intrigued to see what that is. But it's dropping the 20th of June, and it is also dropping just before the finale, I think. So I do wonder what that is tying into.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is an interesting choice. It is an interesting choice to have. Because you would have expected I suppose they've done enough. Like Tennant doesn't need to be done again.
No, exactly. So I do wonder what they're doing with Shooty and Millie and what that is going to be leading into, and whether that's leading into something that happens in the finale for like, okay, if you want to know a bit more about what this character that's just shown up here, go and watch this. I do wonder if maybe that's where they're going with it. But that's going to be an interesting one. 20th of June, that will be on iPlayer and BBC4 if you want to go and check that out. A couple of little gaming things. I talked a little bit about this last week, but I've been playing a game called Galacticare, which, as I said last week, it's basically 2 Point Hospital in space. I mean, that's literally all it is. I'm way, way further into it. I'd done like a couple of levels last time. I'm way further into it. It keeps the humor level up.
Perfect.
9-10 levels in or something now, and it keeps the humor level right throughout. It's very much got the sort of humor of the original theme hospital, which of course is what 2 Point is based on as well. It has that same sort of humor level to it. There is a computer that guides you through it who is wonderfully sarcastic, and there's this like happy-go-lucky little sort of medibot that follows you around, who has been basically sounds like he's been a reprogrammed murder bot. So he's like really joyful and happy, but he's kind of discovering his murderous programming as you go. So there's little bits and pieces in there as well. It's just beautifully written and really fun. If you like those building theme park hospital type games, Galacticare, well worth picking up. It is a full release. It's not an early access release.
Oh, thank God.
Yes, there are so many early access release out there. But
I hate how we're doing this whole thing right now, where it's like, you buy the game on this date, which is the release date, but you're getting it 3 days before everyone else. You're like, well, that's not the release date then.
Yeah, exactly. So it's out in full release now. It's pretty polished, really, really enjoyable. To be fair, it's not maybe as complicated or as difficult as some people I'm sure would like. You know, you can pretty much get through each level fairly easily without running into too much money trouble and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's very fun and very enjoyable. And perfect. I think it is difficult if you want to get like the full 5 stars on each level, then that's trickier to do. So there is, you know, if you just want something that you can sit and play around with and have fun with, really worth picking up Galactica. It launched, I think, fully in early May. So it's had a couple of updates since then as well. So it's playing particularly well.
I'm now looking it up on CD keys.
Yeah, that's Galacticare. There was a couple of new trailers and announcements for games as well this week. Star Wars Outlaws had a new trailer, which, I mean, I'm so looking forward to that game. The idea of a game set in the Star Wars universe that isn't focused on Jedi and lightsabers and is focused on the Outlaws, I think is a really interesting idea. New trailer looks great for that. 30th of August that comes out. I'm very much looking forward to that dropping.
Yeah, 100%.
And they finally announced a new Civilization, not coming until next year. I adore the Civilization games, and, you know, I've got them all with all the packs. and all that sort of stuff. And they will take hours and hours and hours of your life to go and play through them. But Civilization 7 has now been revealed, is coming next year. I mean, the reveal trailer tells you absolutely nothing. It's a cinematic that doesn't show you anything. They are doing a feature reveal in August with a bit more information. Well, actual information rather than just, hey, we've got a new game coming. But I mean, you know what Civilization games are. I am very intrigued to see how they change things up for the new one, but I'm such a fan of those games.
Me too. I mean, when I saw the trailer drop, I went, well, there goes a year of my life. That's going to be a year of me saying to myself, just one more turn until I invade this city. I just have to invade this city and then I'm done. No, now I've got to invade this city and then I'm done. Like, I don't know why Gandhi has got to be taken off this planet because he is a murderer.
Yes. Gandhi, who will always go for the nukes. Yes. The over 600 odd hours that I have in the original game, and that's low compared to most Civ players.
Oh my God. I'm genuinely wanting to look at, you know what? I'm going to dive into Steam right now. And I've currently got installed on here Civ 5 and Civ 6. Civ 5 playtime, 2,000 hours.
Jesus.
Yeah. It's in my like. Just a little bit.
I don't think I've actually got them installed on there. So at the moment, mine were fairly lightweight compared to some people. But yes, I really, really love the Civ games. Yeah. They're amazing.
So good.
So yes, very excited for that coming back and seeing how they're going to change things and that sort of stuff.
My wife is going to hate me.
Yes. Although, when the kid is up all night, it gives you something to do.
Yes.
Awesome. So that's all the stuff we've been doing this week. Let's move on to some TV and film news. So we kick off the TV and film news with the renewals, cancellations and pickups. We have a few cancellations, some which were quite surprising. One that wasn't, though, All American Homecoming, cancelled after 3 seasons on CW. We've been saying for weeks this is probably going to happen. It now has. Nothing to do with ratings. It's the CW, and they can't come to a proper financial agreement with the people that are making the shows, which in this case is either WB or CBS. And that's basically signaled the end for All American Homecoming and Walker. All American did get through, but only because of the fact that they're basically getting rid of all the cast. We knew that was probably coming. One that did surprise me, Tokyo Vice has been cancelled after 2 seasons by Max, although whilst they're saying it is cancelled, it sounds like they did let them go back and film a couple of extra episodes to actually wrap the story. So at least there's that to it, but it is ending after 2 seasons, so that's not coming back. That, of course, has been going out on the BBC most recently. ITV have axed Selene Henry's drama Three Little Birds after 1 season, so that won't be coming back.
That's a shame, that one.
I didn't see any of that. Did you watch that?
I watched a little bit of it, and I really liked it. And I think just from talking from sort of like a diverse, I'm the son of an immigrant. My dad's Filipino.
Right.
I think it's really, really important to have stories like this on TV, and I think it was just, I mean, first of all, I'm a stand-up comedian and I love Lenny Henry.
Of course.
I watch it, but he has been vocal about sort of his family and where they came from and everything like that. He's always been very open about it, and so I thought it was nice to have that. So it's a bit of a shame, but I'm glad that it existed for that short time. So I do think it's a bit of a shame because I think we do need more stories like that on TV.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a real shame, but that's gone unfortunately after 1 season. The other one is not necessarily a cancellation yet, but it seems to be heading that way. 911 Lone Star, which of course is it's not exactly a spin-off because it's a completely different cast, but the second in the franchise of the 911 series. It looks like it might be ending. We don't usually comment that much on rumours, but there was so much evidence that was going to be the case with this that I kind of I really need to say something. Marina Harrison, who played the mother of Jude's son, posted a tweet saying, "I'm so excited to be part of 911 Lone Star's final season," before presumably a very shouty phone call from Fox, and then that tweet got deleted. Whoops. So there's that. But Deadline, who were reporting on this, basically said they'd spoken to a number of the other Lone Star cast members who were basically saying similar things of we think it's the final season. There apparently have been 2 unsuccessful attempts at contract renegotiations, and Fox have come back and basically said that there won't be any more contract negotiations, which kind of signals that this is end of it. They had originally said that they wouldn't be an announcement about a renewal until after the new season airs, season 5, but that isn't going out until the autumn. Unfortunately, the cast contracts are up on July 19th. So they're kind of going to have to make a decision probably before July 19th about whether they're going to bring it back. As some of you may know, the main 911 got moved from Fox to ABC in the US because it is a Disney show, and, you know, it made financial sense for Disney to keep hold of it. It's sounding like they're probably not going to save Lone Star in the same way. They've got their firefighter show that they want, and whilst I think they like Lone Star, they're expensive shows to make. I mean, we don't think that they're be as expensive as they are, but they are quite big, a lot of action, location shooting, stunts. There's a lot of VFX work in there because of the fire.
Yeah.
Whilst Lone Star is set in Texas, it's shot in LA. And in LA, they don't really like you setting fire to things. Because
there are consequences.
Literally the entire city is flammable. So, you know, they tend to frown upon you unnecessarily setting fire to stuff. So quite a lot of the time, what they do is they'll use like dust cannons and stuff for explosions and then stick the fire in afterwards and things. Even small fires, they'll put the fire in afterwards. So there is a lot of VFX work. So they are more expensive than they look, those shows. And seeing as they have the main 911, they're probably not going to save Lone Star. I think Rob Lowe has said that if they do decide to continue with it, Rob Lowe, who's also an exec producer on it, has said he would come back even if the cast contracts have run out. He will be prepared to come back. But you've then got the problem of getting the other cast members back. And if they've gone off and taken other gigs, you're going to have a lot of cast changes, which on the one hand is good because it lowers the price of the show because you can pay new cast members less money. But
But then I present to you Scrubs season 9.
Exactly. So there is issues like that of like you lose that cohesion and dynamic between the cast. So it's not officially gone yet, but only possibly because Fox haven't had the balls to come out and say we've cancelled it. But we'll see. It may come back, it may not, but it's looking on shaky ground at the moment. There's certainly that. I
feel like this is like a Tom Holland level of leak, wasn't it? Accidentally. That's accidentally saying something.
Yes. I mean, it sounds like the cast all are assuming it's going to be the final season. So,
Yes.
On to the renewal side of things, Peaky Blinders officially has a film, which, I mean, that's been the worst kept secret for years. Because, I mean, he
really has.
Stephen Knight built an entire studio in Birmingham to make this film, essentially. I mean, in part, you know, he was like, and he's been saying for years, we're building this studio. I'm going to shoot my stuff here, including the new Peaky Blinders film. So we knew this was kind of coming, but it's officially been ordered at Netflix. The reason that it's Netflix and not the BBC is because it'll cost the BBC probably quite a lot of money to do it, and Netflix has the money and the BBC doesn't. They did the same with Luther as well. I mean, they bought a Luther film, and Netflix run Peaky Blinders internationally, so, you know, it kind of makes sense. But it's Cillian Murphy back as Tommy, and Stephen Knight writing the script, and Tom Harper, who did the original first season of the show, is back directing as well. So it's the whole original team back, which is
that's brilliant. I'm just like, I lived in Birmingham for about 6 years over that time where like Peaky Blinders was really at its peak. So I'm just happy for the people of Birmingham who are going to be able to reopen all of their Peaky Blinder themed bars and cafes and everything again. So they're like, Peaky Blinders is relevant. I mean, I loved it. I thought Peaky Blinders, like, I loved the show. So no, I'm glad that this is now official. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, no, I love the show. And last time we saw Tommy, he was like riding off into the distance on a white horse. So, you know, it will be continuing that, basically, back from whatever new life he was trying to find. Other renewals, Criminal Minds Evolution has been renewed for a third season, so that will be coming back. Law and Order Toronto Criminal Intent, which is a terrible title, but that has been renewed for a second season by City TV in Canada. It's not got a US or a UK premiere date, but for those of you that are Law and Order completionists, there is a wild Toronto Law and Order floating around out there in the wilderness that is attached to the franchise. But
how many spin-offs do they have now of Law and Order?
I mean, over the years, they've probably had about 8, I think. I think there are only 2 running right now, plus this one. So 3.
Oh, my word.
But over the years, there's been, I reckon, about 8 or so of them. The custom wig-led Apple Series Palm Royale has been renewed for a second season, so that will be coming back. Mike Judge's Beavis and Butthead has been renewed for a third season on Paramount Plus.
So excited.
Yes.
I'll be happier if they do a live action one with that Saturday Night Live sketch, which is perfect.
Yes. Yeah, that was good. You can look that up on YouTube. It's very funny. And Darby and Joan has been renewed for a second season at Acorn TV. That's airing on UK TV drama, or what is currently UK TV drama, which brings me on to the other horrific rebrand we've had recently. UK TV's rebrand, which is they've announced happening on July 16th. I have to say, full credit to whoever the marketing agency was that's pitched them this and sold them on this idea, because absolutely you're doing your job. Pitching horrendous rebrands to large businesses is like, it's the same as the guy that basically pitched the BBC logo moving from being 3 boxes that were upright to being 3 boxes that were slanted the other way. Yeah. Then paid them like millions of pounds for it. But I don't know who pitched them this, but I hate it. So UK TV Play will just become the letter U.
Did they use the same? They used Elon Musk, didn't they? That's what happened. Elon Musk went, we're doing X, you can do U.
Yes. Whoever pitched them this clearly didn't think anything about search engine optimization, because it makes it impossible to find things. UK TV Play plus a TV show. Great. You plus it just doesn't work. What they're then doing to the other channels is they're linking them together by turning Dave into the letter U and Dave. So it's You and Dave. Drama becomes You and Drama. Yesterday becomes You and Yesterday. And W becomes U and W, which it's just horrible.
Why does You and Drama sound like something that a Gen Z would say to you to describe your mess of a life?
It really does. It's like, You and Drama. It's You, the ampersand symbol, and then what the channel was actually called. They are, I think, doing the same to Gold, Eden, and Alibi, although for some bizarre reason, those are the premium channels. They're not changing those on the same date. So they're saying we're pulling everything together into one thing and then not changing those three channels at the same time. I just,
oh my God.
It's horrible.
It's so funny. It does genuinely, you mentioned the BBC one there. Like, I went to a university that did the exact same thing in terms of its rebranding. They spent millions, and what they did is it was Napier University, Edinburgh, and they rebranded. They renamed themselves. They went from Napier University, Edinburgh, to Edinburgh Napier University, just so they could be just so they could be next to Edinburgh University in the UCAS listings. And well, the best part was the logo changed from a right angle triangle, which had like one flat edge and sort of triangle, like, the right angle was at the above. They changed it from that to at a jaunty angle. And that was all they did. Brilliant. And they spent like 2 million on that or something like that. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, you see, I mean, I can almost let them have the switching the names round to push themselves further up the list. There is at least a reason for that. But with this, no,
there's nothing of what
nothing of worth.
You plus Dave puts them further down in the rankings for trying to find Dave on listings. Search by alphabetical order. Where's Dave gone? Where's gone? Oh, it's all the way down the bottom there, mate. Now it's on the use.
Yes, it means that they will all be next to each other in an alphabetical list, but I don't see the advantage of it at all. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. It's the same as when they changed the Sci-Fi channel from Sci-Fi to SYFY. Why are you doing that? Be what you are. But yes. Anyway, that's the rebrand. It's coming on July 16th. You've got that to look forward to. In terms of other upcoming shows, they've announced on Sky that Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 1 will come to Sky Max in August. We knew that date. Season 2, which is also subtitled The Book of Carol, that is going to land in line with the US, so they're simulcasting it with the US. So weirdly, we don't have an exact date for Season 1. We do have an exact date for Season 2 because we know when they're releasing it in the US. So Sunday, the 30th of September at 2 a.m. So it goes out the 29th, but obviously with the time difference, it's 2 a.m. on the 30th over here. So that's for Season 2, but Season 1 will go out in August. I think week of the 19th, I think, is something like the latest that they can drop it. But there is that to look forward to. I'm quite interested in seeing that one. I mean, I like Walking Dead.
I think so. So did I. Well, I mean, like, I liked early Walking Dead. No, it's funny enough. I liked early Walking Dead and later Walking Dead. I just didn't like the stuff in the middle.
That's absolutely fine. We covered over on Entertainment Talk with Matt. A lot of people will know we used to cover the main Walking Dead show, and there is a point post Negan where it was like walking through molasses, just lakes of treacle for about 3 seasons until Angela Kang stepped in and took over and spent a few episodes kind of sorting out the mess that Scott Gimble had got himself into. And once they got out of that, it actually picked up and ended reasonably well. But
it was when they changed the intro sequence. I went, oh, this is actually good again.
Yes. Yeah, it was that. That was when Angela took over. They actually kind of managed to pull it back together again towards the end. But yeah, there is a point in the middle where it is just like, oh God, this is just drudgery. But yeah, I've enjoyed The Ones Who Live, which is up and out on Sky right now. I thought that was really good. I'm looking forward to Daryl Dixon. But yes, August for Season 1, 30th of September for Season 2 for that. Nice. The Rookie finally has a premiere date. That's returning for its 6th season. That's on the 27th of June. That's on Sky Witness and Now TV. That will be landing. They originally announced April for that and then pulled it at the last minute. So we've been waiting for that to come back. That's really good. There is an animated Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series that they've announced the 10th of August on Paramount Plus. That is coming. It's a follow-on, by the sounds of it, from the Mutant Mayhem film, which sees the Turtles separated while facing Bishop, a villain who plans to eliminate all mutants. It's from Christopher Yost, who did Thor Ragnarok and The Mandalorian, and Alan Wan, who has worked on a whole bunch of Ninja Turtle projects. So, I mean, given that I think Mutant Mayhem went down reasonably well, I think it did, if you're a fan of Turtles, that seems like quite a good one to pick up. They've got some interesting little animated series on Paramount Plus. They did that, and they've had a few other bits and pieces on there as well. So.
Arc, that was another one that was quite
Arc, good yes, they did that one. Star Trek Prodigy, which you mentioned earlier, that is back for its 2nd season. Finally has a release Monday.
Everywhere except France.
Yes, because it went out early.
France got it first.
yes, because that was really funny. They basically I think didn't they sign a contract for it with Paramount, and then it got sold globally to Netflix, but they didn't change the contract with France. So France put it out and they went, you can't do that. And they basically waved a piece of paper at them and went, yes, we can. And they went,
ridiculous.
So it went out in France on one of their networks because Paramount completely screwed up the contract to France's benefit. Everywhere else gets it globally on Netflix, which is 1st of July, which is great. It's got 20 episodes in the 2nd season. We don't know whether they're going to split it into 2 seasons to 10 or whether it's just going to be one full season dropping all at once off 20 episodes. Not sure yet, but very much looking forward to that. I really liked it.
Definitely. I think it's going to be just going for Season 1. Like it's a kid's show and it's perfectly pitched as a kid's show, but within that Star Trek universe. And I think it just brings a bit of excitement. So I'm really excited to see where it goes, especially like the whole deep mystery. They've shown what they can do in that 1st season. So I'm really interested to see what they'll do in the 2nd season.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this goes down really well and Netflix opt to make more of it. Yeah. If they're allowed to do that, I'm not sure whether that's the case or not, but it will be a shame to see it go after 2 seasons. It really would. Definitely. We've got a premiere date for Like a Dragon Yakuza, which is coming 25th of October, which is a Friday to Prime Video, which is based on the video game set in 1995 and 2005, spanning across 2 time periods. It's an original crime action series following the life, childhood friends, and repercussions of the decision of Yakuma Kiru, a fearsome and peerless Yakuza warrior with a strong sense of justice, duty, and humanity. So if you like the video games, I'm sure that you'll be into this. I don't think I ever played any of the Like a Dragon games, but
no, I didn't either. But what I do know is the ones who do are like, they're rabid about it. Like they really, really rave about it. So I'm sure it'll be great. But yeah, I've never played them myself.
Yeah. So 25th of October for that, and that's a live action series. So I think that will be quite interesting one to check out. There also was an announcement of the possible return of White Collar, which was a police procedural. It was around in 2014, I think, was the last...
I vaguely remember that, yeah.
Last season of it. 2009 to 2014, ran for 6 seasons. So, I mean, it ran for a while. But they were doing an interview recently with the creator and the cast, and he basically said that he's writing a script for... they call it a reboot, but it really isn't. It's more of a sort of revival with reboot elements to it by the sound of it. Yes,
of course, yeah.
Because it's going to have the original cast. Matt Boomer, Tim DeKay, and Tiffany Thiessen are all set to reprise their roles. Willie Garson, who is the one other member of that team, unfortunately passed away from pancreatic cancer in 2021. So what they're going to be doing is, as part of this, they have written in tributes to the actor and the character as part of this. Yeah. There's no network attached to it at the moment. He's writing the script. The cast are all on board. It is owned by Disney. So assuming that they opt to pick it up, it would end up going probably on Hulu and Disney Plus would be where it will end up. But all 6 seasons. If you never watched it, it's supposed to be very, very good. I've never actually, I don't know, just bypassed me at some point. But all 6 seasons are on Disney Plus, so you can go and check that out over there.
Don't add things to my list. A very long list.
It's always the problem when people come on the show. They go, now I've got more things to watch.
Oh my word. It's just getting longer and longer.
Yes.
Brilliant.
There was an announcement of a new show for Jensen Ackles as well, from Supernatural and The Boys fame. It's called Countdown, which, I mean, the thing is, when you say countdown to a British person...
Yeah.
And of course, I entirely blame Prime Video. They didn't supply a photo with the press release for this. So, of course, I just photoshopped Jensen Ackles onto the set of Countdown. I mean, of course I did.
I mean, if it's not them doing Street Countdown, then I'm not watching it. That's what I want to see.
Yes, it has nothing to do with the long-running British game show. It is an action drama. Starts following a suspicious murder in broad daylight, which leads to LAPD officer Mark Meacham, played by Jensen Ackles, being recruited to join a secret task force of undercover agents from all branches of law enforcement to investigate. But as the truth of a more sinister plot comes into focus, the team must overcome their conflicting personal agendas to unite and save a city of millions. So it sounds like it's going to be quite fun. It's from Derek Haas, who has worked on FBI International, a bunch of the Chicago franchise, a lot of this sort of big procedurally kind of drama things. So perfect guy for it. Jensen's great. This sounds like it's an interesting one for Prime Video to pick up, but depends how procedurally it is. I suspect this probably has an ongoing plot to it. But I think this sounds like it could be quite good. But at the moment, it's called Countdown. Whether that name sticks or not, of course, is remains to be seen. But yes,
they'll have to change it for the UK, won't they?
Yes.
Could you imagine like just like older people trying to search for Countdown because they just want to watch a nice episode of Countdown and they're presented of a procedural crime drama?
Yes, Jensen Ackles shooting people in the face. Yes, that will be entertaining. There was another actor who has joined a Prime Video series. This is Charlie Hunnam, who has landed the lead on Criminal, which is based on a comic book, Eisner-winning graphic novel, which is a series of sort of interlocking crime stories from Ed Brubaker, who worked on Westworld and Batman Caped Crusader, and Sean Phillips. They're both exec producing on the series. Brubaker wrote the script as well for it. He's co-showrunning it as well with Jordan Harper, who worked on High Time, Gotham, and The Mentalist. So there's a really good team behind it. Charlie Hunnam, of course, from Sons of Anarchy. I mean, that's where most people know him from. He did Shatteran, which was an Apple series fairly recently, was in Rebel Moon, the Zack Snyder part 1 of that, worked on The Gentleman, Arthur Legend of the Sword, of course was in Russell T Davies' Queer of Folk, and got his start on Biker Grove.
Oh, Biker Grove. Oh, how blessed.
Yes. So
that was the peak, clearly.
Yes, it's all downhill from that.
Grove.
Yeah,
totally. It's been downhill since Biker Grove.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got him taking the sort of lead role of it, of protagonist Leo, who's a brilliant master thief who sees all the angles, specialises in plans with no guns and no violence. Like a chess player, Leo thinks 3 moves ahead. Other crooks think he's a coward, especially compared to his father, Tommy, who went to jail for murdering the most feared man in the city. I like the sound of this. I do know the comic books at all, because they're not ones that I'd read.
No, there's not something that I've read. I mean, I had a quick look up on like the cover, and I mean, the casting is perfect. If you look at it, just some of the cover art, like it's just insane. No, but it does sound quite interesting. So it's not one I'm actually familiar with. It's Image, isn't it, or Marvel?
Yes, it's Image.
I tend to like Image comics. They tend to have like some really good storytelling within those ones. So yeah, I'm interested to see.
I might need to go and sort of see if I can pick up some of those somewhere. They have got some of the cast already announced. Adria Ajora, who worked on Good Omens and Andor, she played Greta, a sharp-tongued top-level car thief and driver and widowed mother. Richard Jenkins, who was in Dharma Monster, 6 Feet Under and Berlin Station, who plays Ivan, Leo's dad, best friend, and has always been an uncle figure to him. And Kadeem Hardison, who was in A Different World and Teenage Bounty Hunters and popped up in Supernatural, plays Gnarly, an old friend of Leo and Ivan, a former boxer and sort of local legend and kind of guru-y figure by the sounds of it. So yeah, there's a really interesting cast in there for that. I like Charlie Hunnam a lot. I mean, I love Sons of Anarchy. I thought was a fantastic series.
It was Shantaran for me, was the one I really enjoyed him in.
Oh, really?
Loved the book. So I was very much, I'm watching this when it came out. So it was great.
So yes, there's some interesting pickups from Prime Video recently. I mean, you've got like the Countdown series and then got Criminal coming. And I like the fact that they're trying to catch up. I agree with you. I think Apple is the place that is to beat at the moment in terms of quality.
I think Amazon's been doing quite well with the comic book adaptations. I think like The Boys and Invincible. But they've also been doing, and then obviously now they've got the Fallout under their belt as well. So obviously that's why they're going back and doing like a Yakuza and stuff like that. I think they're feeling confident in those that. So I'm confident as well that this should be a pretty good show. They've got the money to throw behind it, which is the important thing. So
that is the good thing.
If they can do Rings of Power, I think they can definitely afford to do this one.
Yes, absolutely. So that's all the news for this week. We've just got some highlights for next week on TV next. So, highlights for next week. We have my next guest needs no introduction with Dave Letterman, back for what is technically season 5, although I think it's only 3 episodes. So that's on the 12th of June. But they're great, those. It's very rare.
They really are.
Very rare you get like long form one-on-one talk shows. You don't see that many of them. And I really love that format. And Dave's great at it. And really good. That's back 12th of June on Netflix for that. The Boys, as we were just talking about, season 4 of that lands 13th of June. Very much looking forward to that. That's also been renewed for a 5th season as well, so it will be coming back. I think the 5th season may be the last one. Kripke kind of likes his 5-season arcs, so I think that will be...
That's fine with me. I'm a big fan of more limited series these days, as I mentioned earlier on. I think like, let's have an end. let's not be cancelled. Have an end first. Have an end. Absolutely.
Definitely. There is a show called Court, which is an Australian satirical comedy. Follow 4 Australian soldiers sent on a secret mission from a war-torn country. Nice. I think this was supposed to go a while back, and then they stopped it because of the various wars and stuff. And they've now decided to put it back on.
Oh my god!
So the 13th of June. That's coming to ITVX if you want to check that out. Criminal Minds Evolution, as mentioned, just renewed for season 3. It's back for season 2 or season 17, depending on whether you're counting it as part of the original run or not. But Disney Plus, 14th of June for that. I think Evolution is actually listed just under Criminal Minds season 17 on Disney Plus. They've just strung it all together. So 14th of June for that there. We're Here season 3. That lands on Sky Max. That's on the 16th of June at 10 p.m. This follows some drag queens who are traveling small town America to recruit residents to participate in one night only drag shows, which I think is a lovely idea. It's really
fun.
So yeah,
that sounds great. Yeah,
that's back for a 3rd season. And the other big show dropping this week, of course, is House of the Dragon, back for its 2nd season.
So excited.
17th of June. We'll go out simulcast with the US and then air later as well. So that's back. I'm very much looking forward to that. It should be really good fun.
Cannot wait. I'm really glad that we're doing a Game of Thrones story that's like focused, because I think that's what the problem with the bigger series, like the original, was. Like it got unfocused because there was so many things to carry on. This, with just being on House Targaryen, has been so good. Like I've really, that first season.
It's also useful that it's based on a finished book, which is quite helpful.
Yes, that helps a little bit.
Yes, that I think that definitely helps. So so a couple of decent sized shows dropping this week with The Boys and House of the Dragon, definitely. And if you've not checked out My Next Guest, go and check that out on Netflix, because I really love that interview format. It's great.
It's really good.
So that's all the stuff we've got for you this week. If people want to catch you, where can they find you online? Are you doing stand-up gigs, anything like that?
My word. Okay.
You want to promote?
So coming up, please follow me on TikTok and YouTube. I've got a current ongoing series that I'm doing on TikTok, which is Did You Know Facts About Movies and everything like that. So I release them weekly. My most successful one was the cameo of Arrested Development. Tobias Funk, he appears in Infinity War, if you didn't know. He's very, 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 and it's not even him. It's like a fake model of him in blue at the very back and inside. It's so catch me on that. But please follow me on TikTok and YouTube, because I keep doing those types of things. Live, I'm doing Dundee Comic Con on the 15th of June. So I'll be there hosting panels, which I'm very, very excited about. And I'll also be at ACME in Glasgow in September. And of course, the big one as a stand-up comedian is August is the Edinburgh Fringe. So I will be doing 2 shows at the Edinburgh Fringe. 1st through the 16th, I'll be doing my Star Trek versus Star Wars. So if you want to come and see nerds arguing on stage about which one is better, come and see that. And if you have little humans in your life, I'm doing from the 1st to the 18th, I'm doing Marvel versus DC, which is like the adult version, except the kids are arguing, which is, how could that go wrong? If you want to come and check either of them out there running on those dates, you can go onto the Ed Fringe website, just search for my name on there and you'll find all the details on there.
Cool. Do you want to just spell your name for people?
Yeah. You can find me on everything, as I say, if you search for Rik, so it's spelled R-I-K, so no C, it's spelled R-I-K, because you could only have 3 letters when you entered the high scores. And then it is Carranza, so it's like car, like C-A-R, beep beep. Then it's ran, like R-A-N, like I ran, beep beep, and then ZA, which is Z-A, so C-A-R-R-A-N-Z-A. Simple.
There you go. Cool. So yes, so you can go find him on social medias and online and all that sort of places and look him up for that. For other people that are involved in the show, you can go find Matt over on entertainmenttalk.org for lots and lots more podcasts. We will be covering House of the Dragon over there as well, so you can go and check that out there. You can find Daryl over at HollywoodNorthNews.net for all those shows that you love which are shot in Canada. Just before we go, just want to say thank you, Rik, for coming on this week. It's been lovely to have you. Hopefully you'll be back on again at some point.
I'd love to. I'd love to come back. This was so much fun.
Good. But in the meantime, if you want to find out more about us, you can visit the website at geektown.co.uk throughout the week and see all the latest air date information. If you want to get in touch with your questions or comments, email us on podcast@geektown.co.uk. Leave a message on the website post. Find us at Geektown on Twitter, on Facebook at facebook.com/Geektown, YouTube, youtube.com/Geektown, Blue Sky at Geektown, Instagram at Geektown UK, TikTok at Geektown UK, and Threads at Geektown UK. That is everything. We shall see you next week. Bye-bye.
That was a rundown and a half of social media.
I've done it like 425 times.
Wow.